we pivoted from interviewing people to documenting the growth of our own business. You're literally watching a company being built in real time, and we don't know if next week we're going to have no money, or we don't know if next week we're going to have 5 clients and be like profitable and living off our business and full-time ourselves. Week to week, you don't know, and that's what's cool about this series.
Where do we start? I think the email campaign.
I was about to say
that's where that is where we start.
So we experimented with cold email for the first time. So like basically sending out cold email marketing campaigns to try and get new clients. And we bought some leads off someone on Upwork, and we found a mass mailer software, and we wrote like a personalized email for the industry that we targeted.
It's worth actually mentioning that before we did that, we were doing it off our own back and just doing individual emails to random businesses. And that was just incredibly time consuming and just didn't really get a huge amount of return, I don't think. Purely because email's just a numbers game. Like it is just.
But also, to be fair, I was thinking about that though. The emails you were sending before, that didn't get a good return, but I don't think it's because we were doing it individually. I don't think it got a good return because we had a shit script at that point.
It was
at that point, we were using that old.
Yeah. The script was rubbish. Yeah, it's crazy how much of a difference a good script actually makes to an email campaign.
Crazy.
Whether you're sending them individually or you're sending them in bulk, like we were. But yeah, just
makes
it worth like.
No, it's good.
Caveating with that.
It does make a massive difference. And we had a really bad script, like we said, and so we ran it by someone who knows what they're talking about and refined it and basically wrote a way better email script. And when we sent them out, we've never done cold email before, so we sent out all these emails, obviously, and then what happened is we actually got some good responses.
Just to kind of give like a bit of context, so we basically thought, right, for our studio business, what are the most relevant industries to target?
Yeah.
So initially we thought, okay, well, estate agencies was the best industry to go with. I was doing some like direct stuff with recruitment agencies because I've spent 10 years doing it, and I thought it made sense to lean on my network in that. So I was doing that alongside us basically running this campaign specifically for estate agents. As you mentioned, like we basically went on Upwork. We got a guy to find a list of all the estate agencies in London. Provided us with their email address, their first name, company name, surname, etc. Got the script finalized by an expert, and then we tested a few in like a small batch just to make sure we were doing the right thing, because we use GMass as a kind of plug-in software to use as a kind of mass mailer software, basically. And then we learned a few things straight off the back of that. Basically.
Rule number 1.
This really is rule number 1.
Yeah, if you're ever doing a cold email campaign, this is the most, like, if you're ever doing a cold email campaign, you must make sure you never do this. And I know that's the bit that Barney's going to put.
Yeah.
Make sure you never do this. Make sure that you never send the emails from your primary email domain. Because what happens is, obviously, people will block you and report it for spam, which is normal for a cold email campaign. But what people normally do is they set up subdomains. So if your website is like johnscompany.com, you'd make 5 or 6 other email accounts like johnscompany1@gmail.com, johnscompany2, whatever. Send the emails from that, because then that way, when people report or you get blocked by people, if your email account gets suspended or have any issues with it, then it doesn't affect your main domain, because obviously you don't want to lose that, because that's the one that's tied to your business website. But we didn't know that, so we sent off an initial batch of like 500, and it was okay. And then we sent off the next round, and we got some great responses, and we got a bunch of meetings booked in, which is good because it shows that the script is working.
Yeah, and cold email still works.
And cold email still works.
Well, we sent out, was it 1,200 emails, I think?
Yeah.
Was it roughly 1,200? And we got 11 meetings off the back of
Something like that, yeah.
About 11 meetings off the back of it. So like 10%, which is huge. Like 1%. 1%, sorry. Yeah.
Keep that.
Head of operations.
Yeah, exactly. Got a best man on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God he's the one that crunches the numbers.
Yeah.
But then what happened is so many people obviously blocked and reported as spam, which again is totally normal, from what I understand. But because it was from our primary domain, I basically woke up last week on a Tuesday and my email account was suspended, which is obviously a huge issue, because it means that any clients that could be emailing me back, their emails were bouncing.
That was actually a simple fix, because initially you got banned. right? Your email account got banned. I then went into the Google admin and unsuspended you, which is actually a really straightforward fix.
Yeah,
and
it was like almost the first warning.
Yeah,
it happened after the first 500.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't get in. And then that was the time, where you went into Google and just unbanned me from the admin account. But this time it was like I was suspended. You couldn't unsuspend me because my email was the one that we were using to send the emails out. And so we basically had to write an appeal to Google. So I wrote a whole appeal. And thankfully it was accepted and the ban was lifted. But what it meant is that any of the emails that I might have received in that 3-day window, I haven't got. So it's not even like after the ban's lifted, those emails then come through. It's like it's like your email's just a black hole for 3 days and you have no idea what's happened.
Which is weird.
Which is kind of annoying because there could have been clients that we were speaking to that could have emailed and I wouldn't know.
Probably loads of clients that would have come.
Well, no, but there are people that we pitched.
There were because there were some of you clients that actually messaged me off the back of it to say, oh, like we've just emailed both of you, but like Ollie's account's been suspended or whatever. And
which obviously doesn't look good for social proof.
It doesn't, no, but I feel like you can recover from that because I feel like if you then follow up off the back of your original email address, just saying that we had a technical issue with it, then they're fine.
Yeah,
I think so.
We've been doing a bunch of pitches and it's been going really well. We're refining the sales process and the pitch process. But that email thing was a bit of an issue. So we're about to buy a new batch of leads, but this time we're going to do it in a different way and we're going to have to set up subdomains and stuff. So we're going to figure that out today probably. But that was kind of stressful. And at the moment it's just stressful just because...
Well, yeah. Where do we start with this? Because I haven't even spoken to Barney about this.
Have you not?
No, I haven't. I wanted to wait till you were here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So let's do it on air, shall we? Yeah, when he has no input. Yeah,
well, actually, he has a mic now, so
he does have a mic now. So yeah, you have to stay a fist away, Barney.
Yeah, make sure fist away.
Yeah, fist away.
So am I fired?
Yeah. The minute you go full time, au revoir.
Well, if we do it on air, he can't cause a scene.
Yeah. And no severance either. Yeah.
No, but seriously, you are fired though. No, basically, the issue at the moment is we obviously have outgoings that we need to pay, which is that we have to pay our rent and Barney, obviously. Those are our only two outgoings, apart from like maybe £100 in ancillary costs. Like
those are the main ones. Those are the main ones.
But it's mainly rent and Barney. And the problem is that so we have a sponsor for the show. What?
No, I'm just watching Barney just listen to everything on Unravel.
Oh, brilliant. So we have a sponsor, obviously, that we've signed. Well, I don't know if it's obvious because we haven't actually announced them yet, but we got.
Can you not tell? Like, look at their branding everywhere.
Well, we signed a sponsor about a month ago, and they're a big company, so it's been taking a while to get like the paperwork through and everything. But the first payment is meant to come in tomorrow, but we're not sure if they're going to pay, and we don't know what the situation is with that. And we're basically hoping to get an email back, but that's obviously quite stressful because their sponsorship covers our rent, which is the main cost that we have.
Yeah.
For the clients that we have a bunch of invoices that we've sent out that haven't been paid yet.
It's basically cash flow problems.
Yeah.
Those are the issues that we're having at the moment is cash flow problems.
I should hold off on submitting my invoices then.
Yeah. We'll talk off air.
Yeah,
we'll talk off air.
If you have a problem getting through to my email, it's probably a cold related issue.
But
try to send his invoice, it says bounced.
It's like, when do I get paid? Oh, I've been banned.
Yeah, exactly.
No, mate, it's out of our hands now. Here's where Google.
Change the locks on the studio.
But that's cash flow problems. I feel like a lot of businesses probably have that when they first start out.
Yeah, well, because at the beginning you're trying to juggle a small number of clients, which barely covers you, and then you're also it's basically like it's just lining up dates because they could the rent could come out, let's say, on the 5th of the month, and they could pay on the 12th of the month, and so there's that period of like a week or 2 weeks where you don't have any money. And then I think obviously when the sponsor is an issue too, that but look, I remain optimistic. Tomorrow's the day they could pay tomorrow. We as of yet have no reason to believe they won't pay. Don't look at me like that.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, but you're looking at me.
I am looking at you because I'm talking to you.
But why are you?
But
you gave me a look.
Did I give you a look?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to give you a look. I'm sorry.
I think you did mean to.
I did mean to give you a look. You're right. Yeah.
What was the look?
The look wasn't particularly optimistic. I'll be honest with you, but we will see. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to be the guy that says.
But that's your job. I'm the optimist.
Oh, so I'm the realist. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay.
That's how it's always been.
That is how it's always been.
I steer the ship and I'm like, guys, we're going to get through it. And he's like, look at the numbers. We're fucked.
Skeef's adopting a new approach.
Is he?
Yeah, he's putting a smile on everything now.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's
It feels
more.
so unnatural.
Yeah.
Just like, as I do that, I'm just like, what?
How do people live like this?
Yeah, like, what is this business? Happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we'll see. We'll find out tomorrow.
The annoying thing is as well, by the way, is that obviously, so we signed a new client like 2 weeks ago.
We did.
Off the leads, which is
Yeah.
great. And we're obviously about to buy another big batch of leads
Yeah.
for a completely different sector, and a sector that we have a track record in and are confident that we'll be able to get a decent amount of clients
Yes.
from that.
Agreed.
So it's weird because it's like, it seems kind of doom and gloom, but 3 weeks from now, we could have pitched God knows how many businesses, and we could have signed 1, 2, 3, 4 clients.
But dude, this is just the nature of our business.
Yeah.
This is the nature of almost any startup, any
Yeah.
business. It's like, think of the amount of times we've gone from a huge high to a huge low in the space of sometimes like 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's just so up and down. You're right. We could in 3 weeks' time think, right, okay, we've got everything done, sponsorship done, we've got cash coming in, all good, and then we sign a load more clients and everything's looking very good, which it very well could do
Yeah.
in 3 weeks. Like, we've seen the numbers and the potential of the pipeline, and it's very big. I suppose, yeah, like the one thing I have learned from everything that we've done so far is you can't predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
that's for
I
sure.
don't know. Like, it could be, yeah. Either way, I think we'll be in a different place next week. Definitely.
Well, once we've sent more leads out, we'll see.
Yeah. Once we've sent more leads out, we'll see. And I'm optimistic about that. I've been really surprised at the amount of uptake we've had from cold email. And that's just one form of marketing, but it's done wonders for us.
It has done really well, and especially with the next sector we're going to target, I think we'll see some great results from it.
100%. It's directly applicable.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about getting the actual subdomain set up. It seems like it's going to be really complex. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, but
I don't think it's a super straightforward thing.
I don't think it will be, but either way, we have no choice but to get that done.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will figure that out. But I also think it's worth us touching on the pitch process that we've had with our clients as well. Because the feedback that we've had from everyone that we've had a conversation with has actually been really positive, both from like a product offering perspective, but also from a price perspective.
Yeah.
Everyone that we've had a call with has encouraged what we're doing and is willing to be a part of it or wants to be a part of it. Budget dependent. I think at the moment, like, it's obviously a very difficult time for a lot of companies. So I think some companies are a little, especially smaller companies, are tighter with their sort of purse strings, if you like. But everyone sees the value in what we're doing about building a personal brand,
That's true.
or putting content out there. Even these companies that are, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, in size, the owner of that company still sees the value of building a personal brand. And actually, content is the way to get your company out there and stand out in some form or another. So that's been really encouraging.
Yeah, that has been very encouraging, and I do obviously have faith in what we're doing. I think it will be really good. I think in terms of the pitch process, I'm trying to figure out a way to refine it, as we've discussed. Which is basically one of the issues I noticed that was a mistake in the way that I was pitching, was that you would get on a call with someone and you don't know if they're qualified, and we haven't qualified them before the call. And so what happens is we get them on a call. I'll go through a really long pitch process and go into all the details and answer all the questions, and then I'll say the price at the end. And then what can happen is, and has happened a couple of times, is they're like, oh yeah, we can't afford that. And it's like, if I'd have said that at the beginning of the call and said, hey, this is what the offer is, this is what we do, this is the price, before we go into too much detail, just checking you've got the budget for it. That's something that seems like obvious, but that I wasn't doing. And so you end up wasting like a 45-minute Zoom call with someone who just doesn't have the money, even if they are interested.
No, I agree. That's definitely been a learning curve.
Yeah,
for sure, the pitch process.
And I also think when it comes to pricing, and this is, I think, the tricky thing, but obviously at the beginning you don't really know how to accurately price your product, especially because there isn't really anyone doing what we're doing, as we've seen. There are studios in London that offer services, and you can kind of rent their studio, and you can maybe pay an extra fee for it to be edited. There are podcast agencies that are audio focused, and they focus more on like, you record an audio podcast and then they might help you with SEO and whatever. But there isn't actually anyone doing a video B2B podcast agency in London that we have seen.
No, there isn't. Which is surprising.
It is surprising, but
obviously beneficial for us, but surprising still.
Yeah, but also, in a way, I could see it making sense because of how difficult you basically have to get a studio and then kit it out and then find clients off the back of it and stuff.
Yeah, it's a huge upfront cost.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of risk.
A lot of risk. But what that means is, even though it's great for us because, you know, we in a way have a kind of domination over the market in that respect, we don't know how to accurately price our services yet because we don't really have a frame of reference. We have a frame of reference based on roughly how much we think we'd need to make X amount of profit and how much we want to, you know, so that we can cover our rent and pay Barney a fair amount and blah, blah, blah. So we have like a rough guide on some numbers, but we don't actually know the number that we're charging. We started way higher. We started stupidly high, and then we quickly were told to go fuck ourselves.
But that's the way
exactly,
it goes. And that's how you learn how to do it. I mean,
exactly.
like we were coming in at a very like high ticket offering.
Yeah.
As you said, got told to go fuck ourselves. Literally got laughed at.
Yeah.
By some people, and we thought maybe we should refine it a little bit.
Yeah.
And sort of change it up from here. And now we're at a point where we're saying the price, and people aren't really blinking.
Yeah.
They're not signing on the dot. But then they're not also blinking on the call. So you think, well, that's definitely the right sort of
we're close,
area. Yeah, like if you charge a lot less than what we're charging, then I think it would be too cheap.
Yeah.
If you charge a lot more than what we're charging, it'd be too expensive. So I do feel like we've hit.
We're in the right range.
Yeah, we're in the right range, definitely.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it would be interesting to talk about the mental side of going through this process. I'm sure it's something we'll touch on in every episode because obviously it will change week to week.
It will do.
But I think I was thinking about that as I was on the train here because, you know, that whole quote, Elon Musk said it, where he was like, being an entrepreneur is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. And I was thinking about that on the train today as I was thinking about all the invoices we've got that haven't been paid, the response that hasn't come through, the guest, we had another guest cancel. That's 5 guests in a row.
Yeah, dude, it takes a toll.
And
you don't think about it until you actually go through it.
And I was on the train and I was like, this is a heavy load.
Yeah.
I really would not like, and this is the other thing that again people don't talk about, but it's like being an entrepreneur is so glamorized and it's so cool and it's so in right now. It's the whole like hustle culture thing, but it's so immeasurably stressful.
It really is.
In a way that you just cannot conceive when you're working a job.
And until you actually go through it, I don't think anybody really knows what it's like to do it. And also, let's not forget, like, we are also right at the start.
Yeah.
This is like almost as easy as it will ever be from a sort of stress perspective.
Well,
to a degree. I mean, like, imagine if we had like 15 Barneys. You know, I mean, like that.
But I think that's a different kind of stress, though. That's a kind of stress where you're like,
I don't know. I feel like that's going to be more stressful, man.
No,
I
think it would be less stressful. First of all, there are no 15 Barneys.
That is true. There is only one.
Barney's one of a kind.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Barney would be managing the 15 Barneys. But I get your point. But I do disagree because I think that there's a stress that comes when you've got loads of clients and 15 Barneys. Yes, there's a stress of like making sure everything's executed right. But that's
I'm talking about just payroll, just cash flow again. Like,
yeah,
you know, that's to making payroll.
But yeah,
is a hugely stressful thing that a lot of businesses
that I have
with.
heard. Yeah, but I think that is true. But I feel like when you've got enough money in that you're significantly profitable, and then there might come a period where an invoice doesn't come through and someone needs to be paid, and then you can but you have more money to play with.
Yeah.
So it's easier when you've got like, I don't know, if you've got 20 grand coming in and your outgoings are like, I don't know, your costs are like 10 and you have 10 grand to play with. It's like, okay, well, worst case, this month we will pay ourselves less to make sure we've got Barney paid, or this month we'll pay Barney number 14. We'll make sure he gets paid this month because next month we're anticipating this invoice. But right now,
it's just really hand to mouth.
It's really hand to mouth, and I think that's the reason why it's more stressful, because right now we just don't have any money, and that's the hard part about starting a business.
It's grim.
It's
fucking
grim.
Like having that weight on your shoulders. As I said, it's not the biggest weight in the world. But it is a big weight.
It is a pretty big weight. Especially, I mean, it's different for me. We're obviously in different financial situations, but for me, it's
I'm talking about like
stressful.
We're in the same financial situation with the business. It's not like, you know, either of us are in.
But I think
place.
there's a degree of mental relief. I think you probably have because you have a savings pot, which I don't. So there's a degree of like, oh fuck, we want to make the business work.
That's true.
But in the worst case, I have this pot of money over here that I'll be okay. I don't have that, and so there's that added degree of like massive stress of like, fuck, how are we gonna pay rent, pay Barney, pay you, pay me, pay, you know, there's like, and when you don't have money, that's a massive like suffocator.
I've definitely felt that more in the last 24 hours than I think I have over the last like 9 months.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting, because I feel like we've had more scary times than this.
Because I'm talking about from a financial point of view.
But I mean, from a financial point of view, there were periods where we had like 20 grand in the hole, no clients or business and no sponsor, and we're like, fuck, how are we going to pay rent I mean, we can chip in ourselves to cover it just about this month, but next month, how are we going to pay it? That seems to me that was more stressful. At least now we have invoices going out, and we have clients, and we have a business, and we have a lead generation method,
True.
and we have a sponsor, and hopefully, touch wood. So, out of interest, why has the last 24 hours been more stressful for you?
I think a big part of it is the fact that Barney's gone full time.
Yeah,
I think there's a big
responsibility
to make payroll. I mean, like it's to pay someone that is going and dedicating their time into your business.
Yeah,
like that is a pressure I've never had before.
Likewise,
never felt that. But now it's like, okay, fuck, this is important. This is now really, it's not just me. I can deal with myself not getting paid. I can deal with myself putting money in and like having a completely fucked up situation like we did, when we didn't even know if this was going to be a sort of a reliable business.
Yeah.
That is a whole different kind of thing. But then I always go back to like, well, we'll figure it out. That's fine. It's just me and you at that point. And I know that like, we'll figure it out.
We've always figured it out. It's
fine. But when you've got the added pressure of, okay, someone else is relying on you now to pay their rent, to put food on their table and pay their bills, you're like, okay, fuck, it's stressful, and it's only one person.
Barney, you can get noodles for like £1.
Yeah, trust me, we've checked. Okay,
like rice and beans.
Yeah. So that's I think partly why, and also I think also not having I think be careful how I phrase this, but I think the idea of potentially not having a sponsor is also quite scary as well, because I think that's always been a decent safety net that we've had, and I think it's just an added pressure when you have a full-time employee and you also have the sort of prospect of not having a sponsor. Those are two big outgoings, because you've obviously got rent with that as well. Those are two major things,
especially since the process with getting the sponsor on board has been about 2 months.
Yeah, it's been an arduous process, and we finally got it signed and done, and look, hopefully everything goes through and we're fine, because we'd still love to partner with them, but I think it's just this period of uncertainty, and I think it's because of the fact that Barney is now full time that's the added pressure. Like I didn't sleep well at all last night, like at all. Priya, like my girlfriend, was basically just like, "Look, you're alright. I want to try and make you feel a bit better." And I'm like, it was weird because I've never had that kind of situation before. I've like, okay. I was in my own head, and I was like, there is literally nothing that you can do that will make this better. I'll be honest. I really appreciate like the help and you want to try and make me feel better, and I love you for that. But this is it's just in my head, and it's not something that you can fix or resolve. And time will tell, but that's not an easy thing to try and swallow or deal with, basically. So yeah, I think there's been moments in the last 24 hours that have been probably the hardest yet. I blame you for that, Barney.
Yeah, I'm feeling very guilty about this.
Yeah, it's Barney's.
It's all fucking Barney's fault.
No.
Yeah, no. We're good for it. Okay. We'll figure it out, Barney. Just don't go. Okay? Please. Okay. I don't know if you felt that or not. Maybe
I don't give a fuck about Barney. So
yeah, no, that makes two of us. But I mean, just like just like the financial pressure. I think in the last.
No, I have felt the same. I definitely agree. I think I've felt a more. It seems like you felt a more targeted stress, like a more specific stress specifically to do with Barney. I think I've felt a more overall stress of financial stress. Yeah. But I think more an overall stress of, I don't know. I suppose just all of the pieces coming together. I think so. The piece of like the Barney piece and the sponsor piece and the clients piece and the cold email piece, the podcast piece. I've more just had I actually weirdly had a very good night's sleep, but I then also, as soon as I woke up, I didn't wake up great because I was aware of like, I could escape in sleep, and then I woke up. And
you woke up to the stress.
Woke up to the stress, yeah. And I think it's more just an understanding of like there are lots of moving parts and things need to click into place. And again, I think this is what makes it tricky because it's kind of like what I said earlier in the show, but like we have a lot of stuff to be optimistic about.
100%.
Like we can't lose sight of that. We do have a great studio that is great. We do have clients who work with us. They like the product that they're getting and they're happy with it, and we're servicing them well, and that's great. We do have someone who is full-time on our business who is extremely talented and extremely capable. So we have all of these things. We do have a method of acquiring new clients that we're tweaking and we're iterating, but we are figuring out. We also have another couple of ideas of how to get clients, like the station thing. So there is stuff to be optimistic about, and like I said, this could all change in a dime.
But this is what's so weird, man, because I completely agree.
Yeah.
And like we both have been sat in either in your room, in my flat, or like, you know, in here, and we're like, why do we feel like that? Because there's so much hope or like prospect on the horizon.
But this is what's so crazy, because it feels like every week, and this is the thing that I think people like. I don't think someone who hasn't started a business or isn't looking to start a business won't be able to fully comprehend, which is that the nature of, at least in my experience and probably your experience, the nature of starting a business is that week to week, 1 week we're like, dude, by the end of next month we could be doing like 20 grand a month for the business.
Yeah.
And then the next week you're like, are we even going to pay rent?
I know.
And that's every week.
It is.
And that is the crazy roller coaster that is just impossible to comprehend, because my brother said it best when he was like that, you know, being an entrepreneur is like, compared to a salary guy, is that like, because he's a salary guy, and he was like, the highs are higher but the lows are lower. So he's like, I will never experience the high that you experience when you have a massive win for your business or you sign a new client. He's like, I'll never experience that with my business, with my job.
That is true.
But also I will never experience the utter dread of going to bed knowing that you can't pay rent or pay your employee.
But that's why it's not for everyone, and that's why it shouldn't necessarily be glamorized as the hot thing to do, or like everyone must become an entrepreneur, or everyone must have this thing on the side. It's like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being in a job, working for someone else, and being happy. Yeah, like that is the irony is success in of itself.
The irony is, on balance, they're probably a lot happier than we are, more of the time.
Definitely,
they get on balance, they get a lot more on average, an average amount of happiness.
But that's the thing when you're building a business. It's like you forego the upfront happiness for X number of years before you get to the point where your happiness exceeds someone's in a job or working for someone else. You just play the long game, you know. And sometimes it takes, you know, a year, sometimes it takes 10 years. Like you just don't know, but you forego that immediate security.
I think one thing that is good is that it kind of steels you. It kind of in steel, STEEL. It kind of, you know, forces you to harden, and it kind of forces you to practice a degree, because it requires so much emotional resilience to be able to weather these kinds of storms. It does force you to be like, I've noticed I've become a lot more emotionally unreactive, and I've become a lot more I think stable in the way that I respond to problems. I think maybe when I was younger, it would be more like, oh my God, what the fuck, you know. Now more like, okay, we'll figure it out. And again, I think that comes from being in a position of responsibility, like you said, where it's like, okay, you have to figure it out. Like if you're a father, like I'm not a father, but if you're a father and a husband, and you have kids and a wife that are relying on your income, you don't really get the luxury of being like, oh my God, what are we gonna do, babe? I don't know. You know, it's like, no, you have to figure it out. And so we're in that place where it's like, well, we just have to figure it out, and we will figure it out.
We will. We will. But I think it's definitely worth. And I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's definitely worth clarifying the mental toll and stress that it takes to.
It's exhausting
to start something. It is,
and this goes back to that thing.
And I don't want this to come across on camera as like dramatic or us trying to sound like we're running like a multi-million-pound business. Obviously, we're not. It's a small scale operation at the moment.
Yeah, but also when you've got rent to pay, and you're locked into a 12-month contract for rent, and you've got someone who's full time, and you have like people that are like not paying you or whatever, and you don't have any money yourself. It is fucking stressful.
It is.
I don't even think it's like an over dramatized thing. It's like,
I just don't want that to come across on camera as like we're just being dramatic, when actually it is. It's just stressful.
It's just the reality of the situation.
It is.
I think it's good that we address this stuff now, because I think this is the reason we're obviously documenting growing our business week by week.
Which I'm so glad we are, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I really am.
Me too.
I think it's gonna be really cool to come back in 3-4 years and come back and watch this.
Yeah.
And just see like,
because we will have a lot of clients,
yeah,
and we'll be profitable. We'll be making a good living. Barney will be making a good living. We'll have other employees. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's the thing, man. Like
we'll be doing really well, and we'll be able to look back and be like, do you remember that? Look at us there. We didn't even know if we were going to pay rent.
Yeah, true.
Barney was living on rice and beans.
Yeah.
You know.
Not just rice, actually.
Oh, just rice. Beans. Bit of
Christmas
a
is
luxury.
coming, mate.
Bit of a luxury.
Yeah, but then like you just look at but then you look at the prospect. As I said, that's what's so exciting. That's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
Like if I look in 3 years' time or whatever, like when me and you went for a walk, and I was just, it was so clear like what I wanted my life to look like in terms of it, how it's set up, and like that's what I now need to work towards, because that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like having everything that I want there.
Yeah.
That's what keeps you going. It's, you know, it's the
Thrill of
desire
the
to build, and
Yeah.
the thrill of the game in a way.
That's what I was going to say. I remembered it. I was going to say
This better be good. Well,
Yeah, fuck your
really anticlimactic now if it's not. Yeah.
I remembered that what you were saying about you don't want to kind of over dramatize it, and it's not X, Y, Z, but it is really hard and really stressful, and it made me remember the point of which we've said a number of times before, which is imagine doing this by yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude.
Like yesterday, for example, when you came around to mine and we were working together, and we're like, this is bad, man. We're fucked. Like, we need to figure this out now. That on my own.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Not on my own. We've both tried doing our own ventures, and I think the reality is that I know myself well enough to know that I wouldn't be able to build a business on my own.
Yeah.
Because I know my flaws and I know my personality type.
Yeah.
And I would find it too easy in the lowest points to give up and think, fuck this, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have enough kind of what it takes to continue through those lowest of lows on my own.
No, I agree. It's like the little benefits of, you know, me and you going for our walks and just like going for a walk around the block or sitting in the garden or whatever, just going for a walk and being like, and just talking it out, and by the end feeling better and being like, okay, cool, we've got all the stress out, but we've thought about,
we've got a plan now.
We've got a plan. Yeah. We've got some potential solutions, and that's the other thing. We do always come away with ideas and solutions, and it is just, and I think that's a big part of starting a business. It is just you're constantly iterating, and you're constantly just finding solutions to problems that you didn't even know you were going to have. And even yesterday when I said the idea about, you know, renting the studio, for example, which we can talk to Barney about, but, you know, even something like that, where it's like, that's just a creative idea to try and find a way to plug holes and in the ship and make it work.
Agreed. It's the same thing with how this podcast came about.
Yeah.
You know, this new format.
Yeah, because we had 4 guests pull out
now
in the space of now 5 in the space of a week. And
but I also think let's be honest as well, and like, I don't know, maybe you edit this off camera or something if it's not appropriate, but I do think, like, let's be honest and say that the other reason why we're going down this route is because the format of what we were doing before wasn't working.
Yeah. And
it wasn't getting the views, and it's like we did that for 9 months, I think it was in total, that whole format, and that's what I was saying to Barney. It was just like, for some reason, I don't know, something changed after, I think it may have been Vanita's episode, I think it was, where the views just weren't coming in, you know, and we're like, we can't, that's just the definition of insanity. Yeah. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again expecting a different result.
I think to make it less potentially offensive, not necessarily the views, but the views that it deserved.
Yeah.
Especially that one like 4-week run of people who had like quite
like these people with big audiences.
This doesn't make sense. Like,
very
even
good
from
point.
An outside perspective, their profile should have attracted more views.
Because that's what we said. I think we sat down
really good point.
in the month before that 4 guests run up. We sat down and said, right, okay, this is the sort of the analytics that we have right now. If we're going to continue doing this sort of format, let's see how we get on over the next 4 months. That will dictate where we take the podcast and how it's structured, because they're 4 guests with big audiences, and if that doesn't work, then I don't know what else would. Yeah. And I think at that point, then we were like, right, the format needs to change because what we're doing isn't working. So I think it is just worth also being completely upfront and honest with anyone watching, of like, that's also why we have pivoted to this type of content.
Yeah, good point. Good point to mention it. And I think that's a really good point by Barney. You know, it is not the views, it's the views they deserved. And
True.
you know, when you have a smaller entrepreneur who's maybe not got as much public presence, or it's maybe a smaller company or a bit more of a niche business, you kind of expect the views to be a bit lower. But when you have people who are a bit more high profile and even they don't get views, then you go, okay, well, something's not quite clicking here.
Yeah.
And
especially when you look at the amount of value that you were getting
so
from
much
each episode. I mean, like, just taking one episode that we did, for example, with Erin, the amount of value
that was
the
insane.
listeners would get for social media just listening to that one episode,
Yeah.
that hour or however long it was, about
Yeah.
roughly an hour, is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to start to become an influencer or build an audience on Instagram or TikTok or just social media as a whole, that should, like, there is so much gold in there. And that's what was kind of disheartening, I think, as well. It's like, as you said, the views it deserved.
And again, they're deserved on so many levels, not just because of the content that is, you know, making up the interview in terms of the value that's being given, but also the value in terms of, you know, we put so much effort into titles, into
the editing,
into thumbnails. I was going to get to that
yeah.
too. Yeah, the editing, and it's such a professionally built, well-made product. However, that is the thing with business, which is that you don't get to say whether it's good or not. It's good if people buy it.
The market decides.
The market decides if it's good or not, and that's the hard part, because there's also a degree of ego attachment to
100%.
from the three of us, not just me or you, but with the three
100%.
of us.
It was really difficult to get in a room and for us to sit down and say, right, guys, what we've done for the last 9 months isn't working.
Yeah,
we need to change it. Like, that's a pretty fucking hard pill to swallow.
And I don't know about you, but I always think about this thing that Mr. Beast said in an interview where someone was like, what do you think would happen if you started YouTube all over again now?
And he says in 6 months.
Without any of the money or the team or the equipment or the social reach, just with you, and you're allowed to keep your ideas and all of the knowledge and experience you now have about YouTube. And he's like, I'd be at 1 million in 6 months, probably sooner. I'm being really conservative there, but it would be maximum 6 months until I'm at 1 million. And I'm like, that is so ridiculous. But what's most ridiculous about it is that I think he's right. Like, and he's so clear about it. YouTube is, he's like, there is an element of luck to it, but he's like, I think he said like 99% of it is knowledge and experience or whatever. And that just makes you hungry for the gold.
Yeah,
it makes you hungry to be like, we can figure it out. Because it is just that thing, if he's like, if you know, and that's why when he breaks down things like thumbnails and then CTR, click-through rate, and AVD, average view duration, and he breaks those two things down, and he's like, it really is just, you have to make people want to click on your video, and then you have to make it good enough that they want to keep watching it.
Yeah,
that's all you need. That's all YouTube is, and it's such a simple formula, and that's why it's so frustrating when you can't get it right, because you're like, well, we're agonizing over our thumbnails. We've tried 3 different thumbnail
styles. And then you see like a fucking review of a toothbrush. They get like 13,000 views with no thumbnail. Yeah. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake,
got like
man.
some dude in his basement being like, okay, guys, so I got the Oral-B 42C here. And you'll notice on the handle, other than the 42CX model, it's got actually a more dynamic grip. So when you're getting those, you're really hitting those molars in the back. And it's got 423,000 views. And you're just like, how? But fair play to him. Fair play to anyone doing content and making it work. But it's just, that's the thing of like, you know, we've tried different thumbnail styles. We've tried different title styles. We've tried using AI generated titles. We've tried using titles that are, you know, relevant for SEO. We have tried everything. And
I don't know if we can actually say
okay,
that.
fine.
Because I feel like that's a cop-out.
No. Okay, fine. You know what? You're right. Thank you for calling me on my bullshit, because that was a cop-out. Not everything, but it feels like we've tried everything. And we've tried a lot. And we've tried, you know, the most impressive long-form grand intros as possible. We've tried going straight into the episode. We've tried, you know, cutting out the beginnings of intros where we're like, hey, welcome to the show, and let's just start with value. We've tried making them shorter than an hour and cutting them down, and we've tried cutting out all the bits that weren't pure value. We've tried doing a longer form conversation where it is more of a conversation, the value's in between. We have iterated the product a lot.
We have.
And so that's why when you hear things like Mr. Beast being like, I can get back to 1 million in 6 months, I'm like, it annoys me because it annoys me because I know that you're right.
Yeah,
which makes me look at myself. It's annoying because it holds up a mirror to myself. I love Mr. Beast, so it's actually it's nothing to do with him, but it annoys me because of myself.
Yeah,
because
No,
I
completely
go,
agree.
he's absolutely right. I have no doubt. If you made me bet 10k on whether Mr. Beast would hit 1 million in 6 months,
dude, I'd put that bet down tomorrow
every time.
But what's also interesting, I think, is that a lot of the YouTube creators that we looked at when they first started their channel, they would typically take 9 months maybe before they really started to see any traction. Maybe like 9 to 12 months or something. Sometimes maybe 8. But to get to their first like maybe 1,000 subs, for example, and then it's just a kind of rocket ship after that.
Yeah.
And then I think for us at the end of our 9 months in, to look at the analytics that we had at the end of 9 months would sort of say to us, right, what you're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
I saw a Gary Vee video recently. Was it you that sent it to me about like the views? And he's like, if you're getting those views, and he's like, it's not that she's.
Oh, I think it was.
It
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
wasn't
it was.
It was some girl who'd been posting videos for like.
She posted a lot of videos on YouTube.
It was like over a year
Yeah.
or something. And she was like, I don't understand. I've been really consistent with content and I'm still getting like 20, 30 views a video and I don't get it. And he's like, I think this is actually...
It's a very rare scenario.
He said, this is a very rare scenario where normally I just say to people, you haven't been doing it long enough. You haven't tried long enough. He's like, I think the amount of videos that you've done, you have been doing it long enough to be able to say, okay, this isn't working. But I think that's a good thing because now you're able to try and find another thing to do. You'll pivot to something that has a better chance of working.
Yeah.
And I think there is definitely value in that, which is kind of what we're doing now. We pivoted from interviewing people to documenting the growth of our own business, which is something that I don't really see people doing. We're documenting, you're literally watching a company being built in real time on a weekly basis. And we don't know if next week we're going to have no money. Heads up. Yeah. Or we don't know if next week we're going to have 5 clients and be like profitable and living off our business and full time ourselves.
Yeah, true.
Week to week, you don't know. And that's what's cool about this series.
I don't see anyone else doing it either. But it also goes back to what another Gary Vee video that we saw about us being the niche as well.
Yes.
I think which is a huge thing because I think a lot of people focus on, or they think, okay, we just need to niche down and we just need to focus on, I don't know why I keep coming back to this, but like reviewing toothbrushes or like interviewing traders or like interviewing, tech startup founders or whatever it might be, like just niching down into a certain area. And I think one thing that he said, which I think is actually incredibly accurate and really well put, is that you don't need to niche down into a particular area. You should really treat it as you are the niche. You and your personality and the way you approach each topic, you are the niche. And that's what you need to lean into. Because he's a guy that talks about baseball cards and New York Jets and wine and, crypto and all this kind of stuff, NFTs. So
yeah, in an age where everything is saturated, or most things are saturated, the thing that stands out is personality. Yeah. The thing that stands out, which is personal brand.
100%.
Personal brand is just personality. It's just who you are. If you're doing business with 10 digital marketing agencies and their prices are all kind of comparable and their products and services are all kind of comparable, but you love the Smurfs and it turns out one of them has a Smurf collection, I bet money that's the guy you're going to work with.
That's true.
Because,
that is 100%
because we
true.
connect and we build trust over rapport and things like that.
I suppose the difficult part is that like, if you lean so heavily on your personality and your personal brand, you still don't get any traction, and you're like, okay, so it's just me now.
Yeah.
It's you don't want to watch me.
Then
okay,
smile
all right, yeah, exactly. Slap a smile on.
Then it's time to have a really frank conversation
with the noose.
Noose, yeah.
That is probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, personally, yeah, but that's why I do really enjoy this format. I mean, even me and Barney were saying when we were editing this episode, kind of reviewing it, we both were like, we really enjoy this. I was
saying to Barney, I watched the rest of it today. I'd watched the first like half an hour or something beforehand. I watched the rest of it today. I really enjoyed watching it. But then I said to him, I was like, I don't know if that's me being biased because I'm
that's what I said.
It's really hard to know if it's genuinely a good video or if it's me just laughing because I'm watching myself and I'm kind of reminding myself of the stories and the individual scenarios and that kind of thing. But I thought it was really good content.
I got a message from one of my friends, to be fair, being like, really enjoyed the new episode, man.
Oh, nice.
Didn't ask him for it, he just randomly messaged me and said, hey, man, I really
that's
like
nice. Cool. I think also it definitely comes across on camera. The fact that we're just really enjoying this type of format.
Yeah, it feels very airy and fresh.
Yeah, it does. And it feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. Not that it was forced before, but it's like you're kind of leaning more.
There's an added element of pressure when you sit down with someone you don't know because you have to make it a good interview.
Yeah, and you feel a bit more stiff and you think, fuck, should I say this? Should I not say this? And this kind of thing.
You can't be completely yourself.
No.
Which is obviously different to this format.
No, I agree. And it is surprising that no one's documented their journey of building a business. I can't think of anyone that has, unless
I mean, they're
you
probably.
can.
I'm sure we're not the first people to think of it.
No. Oh, didn't you say there was a guy that like did a podcast about starting a podcast? I think.
Yes,
that
but
was
they'd
one.
they'd come from a much more like corporate background. They'd worked in media before. And then they went to start a podcast about them starting a podcast.
Right. Okay.
And then got bought by Spotify and made a podcast about getting bought by
that.
Spotify.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
One day, guys.
Nice.
Can we make a
day.
podcast about making £1 million?
Someone will buy it.
Someone will give us £1 million for it. That reminds me of that app. There was an app that guy made. It was like £1,000 or it was £10,000, and it was literally like it was taken off the App Store initially, but it was like an app where it didn't do anything. It was literally just an app, and it was like being able to buy it was like a flex.
Really?
Some guy just made an app, and it was like it does nothing.
Seriously?
But it's £1,000 or 10k or whatever.
It's just a flex.
It's just a flex, and if you buy it, it's like
Who buys that?
people with more money than sense. But I think
They
the dude,
genuinely like.
I think the dude-
about something like that. And I'm like, how much money do you need to have
dude,
to basically burn $1,000
Should
or
we
burn
just stick
10?
this behind the paywall? Like,
Yeah, shall we? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. Like,
talking to no one.
yeah.
Basically the same.
Ready to getting paid?
Yeah.
Oh wait, yeah, by no one. Yeah.
Dude, one of the businesses
That's
that I love interesting little businesses, like random peculiar little businesses, and one of my favorite businesses has always been Pet Rocks.
Okay.
You don't know?
I know. I know the concept of it, but I can't say I've ever come
It's
across
literally
a
literally a guy. I think or girl, or whatever, and you buy a rock, and I think they put like little googly eyes on it or whatever, and just sell it.
They sell that.
Oh yeah, dude, that business I think crushes.
Seriously,
Dude, that's been around for decades. Pet Rock.
I remember the little aliens. I remember you used to buy the little
The eggs.
aliens. Yeah, the little alien
dude, I
eggs.
love
I
the
remember
alien
those.
eggs.
I mean, I'm like, you're looking back at it. You're
And
like,
do you
what
remember
the fuck?
do you remember the rumor that
Like,
if you put the alien in the freezer overnight, it would have a baby?
I didn't know that.
Dude,
no.
that was the thing. Everyone, you went to school and someone would have like a new alien, and they'd have like a little baby alien.
Okay.
And they'd be like, "Where'd you get that?" And they're
the
like, "Dude."
freezer.
And it was like, yeah, it's like when someone's like, "Dude, there's a secret cheat code in this game. I'll give you the code."
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like up, down, right trigger, left trigger. It was like that. It was like, dude, you have to put it in the freezer, but you only put it in for like an hour, and then you take it out, and then you wash it, and then you put it back in. It was like some stuff like that.
Crazy.
And I remember I wake up and there was no baby, obviously, because plastic can't procreate. But dude, God, I miss those aliens, man.
But no, it's crazy how like some people might manage to make a living out of some random businesses.
Yeah.
Random businesses. But I also feel like some of the most profitable businesses are the unsexy ones. You know, whether it's like, waste removal or it's
car washes,
laundromats, that kind of thing. Also.
Yeah.
Which I think I would love on camera to just be able to have the confidence to like talk about our grand vision for like TGF Group and like where we want to put the money. But I'm like,
you know what, dude?
I kind of almost like don't feel comfortable doing it, because then it's like,
speak it into existence.
Right.
Manifest that shit.
Yeah, Conor McGregor always talked about that.
What me and Skeet
We're
have
basically
always...
the same.
What?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
So we're basically the same. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Same list of accolades.
Yeah. Same life.
What me and Skeet have always said we'd love to do is we'd love to build a business, and once we've got the money from that business and it's successful and profitable, take that money and then reinvest it into unsexy businesses. So reinvest it into laundromats, car washes, that sort of thing, because they are extremely profitable, and that would be something that would be really cool to do, and they're good streams of income, and they're kind of plug and play, and then you make some improvements to them once you bought them. But yeah, that's the kind of
that is the goal,
that is
and
the
then
goal.
maybe like setting up our own fund to invest in other companies as well.
Yeah.
We have like a very grand vision for where we want this to go, and it's all starting with our agency.
Yeah,
And this podcast.
it's quite cool to think that in like 5 years
Mm.
we could be like, guys, we purchased our first car wash.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what's so exciting. That's the thing that you're like.
that's the thrill of the game.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
know-
what keeps you going.
So do you know what that's like? To talk about something I said to you earlier in the week, which I think was more of a philosophical thing, but I did find it quite. It made a difference to me, which is I had a kind of moment or two where I was feeling a bit existential and a little bit like I was struggling to kind of find meaning, I think, in a lot of things, and I was just sort of thinking a bit kind of deeply about the world. And I had this. Skeeth was away, for context, so he was away with his girlfriend for like a week, and I hadn't seen him for like the second half of the week before that, so I hadn't seen you in like a week and a half, which
Felt weird.
It felt so weird.
Fucking weird.
It was so like I've seen you every other day at least.
Yeah.
For the last 9 months, and for like 9 years I've seen you for like every week. So to not see you for a week and a half, I literally got withdrawals. It was so strange. And I was on my week.
I have that effect on people.
Don't push it, you know. It's a small circle. But my point is that I have withdrawals, and I was like, and I was on my week off, so as well as was Barney. So we were all separately having a week off, and I was just like, we didn't go for a walk in the park, we didn't have a meeting, it was just so strange. And so while you're away, I was thinking about you, obviously, and I was thinking how, as much as I would love to do 1,000,001 different things, I would be genuinely happy if I got to make a decent living and be able to provide for my family when I, hopefully have one, running a business with my best mate, getting to work with one of my other best mates. Like that is a quality of life that I think I would be really happy with. And I think what can happen is, especially in the age of infinite opportunity and infinite temptation, is that you do get shiny object syndrome, and you do think, yeah, but what about that, and this person's doing that, and what about this is like that, and that lifestyle's like that, and you can kind of get a bit lost in the weeds of, you see someone who's just become a TikTok star and then you see someone who's suddenly like got signed to a record label, and now they're touring the world out of nowhere, and you see like actors who you see all this like massive stuff, or an entrepreneur who started some random agency and now they're like fucking doing whatever. And you can just get a bit like your head's on a swivel, and you're like, oh my God. And then it becomes a bit overwhelming and then depressing as a result of the kind of paradox of choice. That's true. I think, like I said to you the other day, it's that kind of Buddhist idea of desire is suffering. And when you remove desire, you remove suffering. And I was thinking a lot of the suffering existentially that I think that I experience is as a result of wanting so many things. And I don't even material things. I'm a minimalist. I don't buy anything really, but I mean more in terms of just wanting 1,000,000 different pathways in life and to do all these different things in life. Yeah. And actually, when I stripped it back, and I think when it's because you strip it back to not having anything. So when not having anything, but not having much in terms of like, I don't have money right now.
I need to jump on a call
now
at 2:30.
At 2:30?
Yeah.
6 minutes ago.
So we're 6 minutes late.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
We're now back from our call.
We just pitched a client.
We just had to jump off. Yeah.
It went well.
I think it went well. Yeah.
They are looking to do it next quarter.
Yeah, starting in January.
But
it's quite nice to build up a pipeline, because we've actually got a couple of other companies that are also starting in January.
Yeah.
Influencers and recruitment companies.
That's true. We do.
In January. So actually, come January,
we could be sitting in a really nice place. You can live off rice for 3 months, right?
Yeah. Or beans, either one. Yeah, either one, not both. Yeah.
You can pay rent with beans, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or other ways. Yeah, you figure it out.
But no, that was good. It was nice to get a pitch in.
It was.
And that's also an example of what I was talking about earlier in the episode about improving the sales process and just trying to make each pitch 1% better than the last one. So like the thing I did differently on this one is I mentioned at the end of it, rather than leaving it more as an open-ended thing, even though they're looking to start in January, I was like, even if you're looking to start then, let us know when you speak to whoever next week, so that we can get it kind of secured, so that we know that it's happening in January, to kind of create a bit more urgency.
No, I think it's a good thing. One thing that was also interesting that they mentioned was that they're seeing a lot of other companies in their sector moving into podcasting.
That was interesting.
Which was also interesting.
I noticed that too. Okay,
yeah. Right. That's a positive sign. Because we always look at it as like the podcast market is so oversaturated and everyone's starting a podcast. And I think that's true maybe from a consumer perspective, but actually from a business perspective, a lot of those businesses are late to the curve in actually starting a podcast and getting content out there. And when they see they're getting 16 to 20 pieces of content per episode, they're like, oh, wow, it's a no-brainer, for what you do. And the benefit of the marketing side as well, as we've gone into before. But that was interesting. So maybe we underestimate the number of businesses that are actually able to invest in podcasting.
Agreed. And I also mentioned a 6-month contract in this one, which she didn't seem to flinch at.
No, because I think also like anybody that does start a podcast knows that it's a longer commitment than just a month or 2 months, because it's a bit pointless to just do a podcast for a month or 2 months, because there's just no real value in that. And I think companies are aware of that. She was obviously aware. But as I say, it's good. We say our price. We say what we do. We show her ideas of what or examples of what we've done previously with our website. And all the feedback's positive. So
100%.
for all the meetings that we have, it's the same. The one thing I have learned, as I'm sure you have as well, is like getting someone excited on a call and getting them to buy into what we're doing and really on board is very different from that to paying an invoice
100%.
and like getting them on, because I feel like all the calls we have, they all seem really bought in and they think, right, yeah, we really want to do it. It sounds great. I need to maybe have a think about how I want to ideate it and actually structure it and market it. But no, it sounds like a great proposition and I'm in. And you're like, okay, sweet. And then there's a big difference between that and then actually getting paid.
There's a chasm.
What you do.
There's a chasm between the excitement and closing the deal. But that's, if anything, that's kind of what. It's funny because a lot of the issues we're running into in the sales process are things that, for example, Alex Hormozy talks about in terms of qualifying before the call. So making sure the person you're speaking to is a decision maker. And if it's not a decision maker, arrange a call when there's a time where the decision maker can join them on the call so that you want to close them on the call. Qualifying them for budget before you jump on a call, things like that. And it's funny because I think that's something we've been scared to do because we're so like, we've got some leads. And so whenever someone takes a call with us, it's that new business fear of like, it's like, you know what it reminds me of? There's a great joke. It's one of my favorite jokes. It's a Jewish joke. My godfather told me. He's Jewish and he loves this joke. And he was like, Moshe's lost his wallet and he's looking everywhere for it and he can't find it anywhere. And he's like tearing the couch up and down. And he's like looking under his bed and he just can't find his wallet anywhere. And his wife comes and goes, Moshe, what's wrong? And he goes, I can't find my wallet. I'm looking for it everywhere. And she goes, have you checked in your jacket pocket? And he goes, no. She's like, well, why don't you check there? And he goes, because I don't want to lose the one little bit of hope I have left. Which is, I think, is so brilliant. And it's kind of the same thing, which is like when you get a few calls booked the last thing you want to do is qualify them, find out they don't have the budget, which makes no sense because you don't want to then waste time having a call with them if they don't have budget anyway. But in your head, you're like, well, right now, it's like Oppenheimer's cat, Schrodinger's cat. That thing of like the cat could be dead or it could be alive. It's like right now, I don't know if they've got budget or not. And if I take a call with them, they are still a client potentially. But if I ask them if they have budget,
and we need to get really excited by the pipeline.
Exactly.
Think of the pipeline, dude. Exactly. None of them are interested. They're not going to afford it. But think of the potential pipeline.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think what's interesting is we might have to start qualifying leads more before we jump on a call.
No, I agree. I definitely
to basically say, are you the decision maker? And do you have the budget for what we're offering? Because then that way, when you get because what's happening a lot, I've noticed.
My only hesitation with that though is I feel like you're going to say something.
Isn't there an element of like they might have the if you start asking like, or do you have the budget? They might have the budget, but they're not sure if they want to spend that amount of money on what you've got to offer.
No, that's true. But when you ask them about budget, it's more they know that they're saying yes, we could afford it. Whether we spend it with you or not is irrelevant. But yes, it's basically saying, if we do like your product, yes, we could afford it.
But my hesitancy with that is that if you say to somebody, are you the decision maker? Can you afford what we're doing? If you take the example of the meeting that we just had, for example, that person wasn't the decision maker.
Yeah.
But then we wouldn't have been able to get in the room with the decision maker.
We don't know that. The decision maker was interested and he passed
the decision maker basically forwarded us on to
because she was
the
she was the marketing person. But I think if we'd have said, we want to make sure that there's actionable steps moving forward. If you like it, we think it would make more sense to have a call with you and him. That I don't think is the worst thing in the world, because it's tricky, and this is why it's so tricky because we haven't done it yet. Because I agree with you that it is that thing of you don't want to push them or be too pushy, but this is sales, and this is like you don't want to be booking out. Like, is there really any benefit in booking 20 pitches? And then closing none of them because none of them have money or none of them are decision makers, and we get 20 people saying, it's interesting, maybe sometime next year we'll reconsider it. I think there's definitely something to be said for being able to add urgency on a call, and also when you know that they're qualified, at the end of the call you can go, hey, so this is what we think, so what do you think? And if they go, yeah, it's great, we'll have a think, and it's like, okay, well look, if you come on board now, we'll give you a reduced rate for the first 3 episodes because we really want to work with you. If you come on board right now, things like that, adding ways of trying to get the deal signed, because people will kick their feet and they will.
No, I've
drag it out.
Yeah, I've learned that from the process.
So I think I'm learning to be a bit more harsh with how we handle getting on calls, because we don't want to spend 45 minutes at a time pitching someone. That's why one thing I heard the other day was someone said it could be a good idea to they said they found that their conversion rate tripled when instead of trying to book Zooms off a lead, they would try and book a quick call first, and that quick call would be like a 5-minute call, and the call was basically, hey, here's a rough summary of what we do, here's how much it costs. If you're, does that sound like it could work for you? If it can, we'll book in a longer Zoom call where we can break down all the details and go into questions. But we just wanted to kind of touch base and see if it works with you. And also a call is way less intrusive and way less it takes way less to just quickly have a call for 5 minutes than it does to schedule a Zoom meeting and you have to get on Zoom and go on webcam, and it's more of a thing. Whereas if you say to someone, hey...
Yeah, it's a good point. I quite like that, actually.
Yeah. So I think maybe we try that.
I think we definitely should try that because... I don't see a downside to trying that. That's very different to making sure you're on a call with the right person. I feel like that's a lot less hard, that rule. So I think we should actually try that for our next batch of outreach.
Because then you have a quick 5-minute phone call with someone. It's easy for them because they don't have to be like, okay, well maybe next Wednesday at 2. You can be like, hey, do you have 5 minutes today? I'll give you a quick call. Just see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, no worries. But if it is, then we can book in a longer Zoom call for next week. And it's thinking, okay, well, I'll hear what he has to say. And then that way, if on the call they're like, yeah, no, I can't afford that, no way, or maybe not until next year, but that's way out of our budget. Then you go, okay,
it's better to know.
100%.
No, I agree with that.
100%.
Yeah, we can try it with our next batch of leads. Yeah, we're doing our next batch of leads to the next sector next week. Yep. So we will keep you updated on how that goes.
Yeah,
well. And I'm quietly optimistic about that.
I'm quietly optimistic about it too, but I think what's more interesting to see is that the difference between this episode and the next episode is you will know whether we've been paid or not.
That's true. You will know if Barney's still here.
We'll know if Barney's still here.
True. Yeah.
But we will literally know if we've been paid or not.
Just if this is released as like one camera angle.
With no edit, no
cuts, nothing. Barney's gone.
gone.
So
that'll change by next week.
We're meant to get paid for everything by tomorrow. So right now we don't know if we're gonna get paid
because we've got our overheads are basically due on Monday.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
All our overheads are due on Monday and we have no money. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to see next episode. If you don't see us next week,
if the lights aren't on, we've gone.
Yeah. Both metaphorically, but also literally as well. Cool. If you enjoyed this, what are you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say I think for our next episode we'll just have a noose in the background and just have like that swinging and then just a camera zooming in on it slowly. Yeah, I think that would be good.
That'd be good for potential clients.
Yeah,
sets the tone.
Yeah, it does. It's nice that.
If you enjoyed this, leave a comment if you have any questions about our business, or any questions about. If you want to just talk to us.
If you want to just have a chat, we're here.
Yeah,
if you have any wife problems,
if you have any money and you need an editor.
No, ignore that. No, if you can't have Barney, he's ours. If you have any advice, if you're starting a business or you've had any experience in this kind of thing,
that would be really helpful.
That would actually be really helpful.
Yeah.
So please do let us know. But otherwise, like the video because it helps. And I guess we'll see you in the next one if we have the lights on. So
time will tell.
Sweet. See you
on that note, see you next time.
See you later. Quite possibly, but also maybe not. All right, bye.